Hi.
Or welcome for the first time, because this is the first time that I'm streaming on my own Twitch channel.
Dr. Debitage.
Dr. Debitage. You said it right, too.
Yeah.
Good job. This is my nickname, actually. Debitage was my nickname in college.
Really?
Yeah, because Debitage is a waste flake. If you are napping, if you're making a stone point, it's called napping. If you're making KNAPP.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the little like flakes that come off of the chert when you're making the stone
You're
point.
You're just making all these words up. I've never heard of any of these before.
Anyways, that's called debitage.
Okay.
The flakes that flake off. And so I was in an archaeology class and the professor kept saying debitage over and over. And yeah, see, she agrees, fake words. He kept saying debitage over and over, and all I heard was Deb.
Yep.
And so I'd like perk up each time, and my friends started laughing at me, and at that point they just started calling me debitage.
That's a pretty good story for a nickname.
Yeah, I thought so.
I get accused of making up words a lot because part of my job is administering vocabulary tests to like older adults, and they get real mad.
That's
tell
really
me I make
funny.
up words.
That's
like
really funny.
Objurgating.
Is that a word?
I didn't know it until I administered the test for the first time, but yes, it is. It's like to scold, I think.
Yeah, I could see the Latin in that actually.
I couldn't, but
because
they only have 4 options, and one of them was a mom like yelling at a kid.
Obi?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways,
So.
Latin. Who's gonna question her? That's true.
Jason.
With fake words, like no one's gonna question me. Jason always gets really mad actually sometimes when I like say something and then I'm wrong. He's like, "You were so confident I believed you." I'm like, sorry.
That's part of being in academia. If you're wrong, you just say things really confidently.
See, and that's why I added the doctor to it. Because I was debitage is not, like, that's okay name, but...
So, you said this was in college?
Yep.
Okay, so you were doing, like, archaeology-ish stuff even in college?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, that was my
I didn't do
major.
any psychology in college.
Really?
Yep, not a single psychology course.
How'd you get into grad school?
Who knows?
For it? Oh, that's interesting.
I did get a master's in educational psychology before coming here.
Oh, okay.
And then realized I hated that field too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, it's just, never mind. Doesn't matter. But they don't do the kind of stuff I'm interested in.
Oh, interesting.
But I didn't know that until I started my master's program. At that point, I was like, I stay for another year and just finish it.
Yeah,
So,
I wanted to go into archaeology. Didn't know that archaeology is a subfield of anthropology.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
I didn't know it was part of
And
anthropology.
so I should have gone to a school for anthropology, but instead I just looked up majors for archaeology, and there are very few that actually offer majors
I
in
feel like
archaeology.
that's still a more informed college decision than most make.
Well, I mean, I knew what I wanted to go into, I just didn't know some stuff.
Yeah.
So I only looked for schools that had archaeology majors.
Huh.
And then I only applied to one school, and I got in, luckily.
Well, that worked out.
But I wanted to originally do South American archaeology. And then I started at the University of Evansville, because they have an archaeology degree.
Yeah.
They should call it a classical archaeology degree, because the
only
only thing they
focus on,
offered was Greece and Rome and Egypt.
Huh. So you got kind of turned around by...
Yeah, a little bit. But it was like, okay, well, this is cool enough. Like, I didn't know enough about...
You know, a lot of cool random facts.
Yeah.
Like what debitage is.
Yeah. It's fun. But...
Huh. But wait, hold on real quick. Before we get started, what department do you teach in here? Not anthropology.
Classics.
Okay.
Yes, and this is the tricky part. I'm actually the only full classics person in my department that does archaeology. Other people are in other... They're in joint.
Yeah.
So, like, Bob Cargill, for example, does archaeology. Uh-huh. He's a good guy. Maybe he'll watch one day. But he was... he's a joint appointment in classics and religious studies.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Glenn Story is also an archaeologist in our department, and he is a joint position in classics and anthro.
Okay.
So...
And are you just classics?
I am just classics.
Okay.
But when I looked for jobs, I applied for jobs in art history departments, in anthropology departments, in history departments, in classics departments.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a very, like, wide net, because we...
What year were you on the job market?
2016, 2017.
Was it awful then, too?
It wasn't great.
Obviously Corona has made things bad now. But...
It wasn't great. I definitely didn't get any interviews for tenure track. But it wasn't terrible, and obviously, because I got a job.
Yeah.
But it was the only job offer, and it was really the only interview that I got. But I stopped in February looking because I got the job interview in February, or I got the job offer in February. So I was like, well, then I'm not going to keep applying to stuff because.
University of Iowa Graduate College, answer my petition, by the way.
What's your petition?
Because I have to petition if I want to stay enrolled through fall and defend them because I wasn't allowed to collect my data in the spring.
Oh, man.
Coronavirus.
Okay.
But they haven't answered my email, understandably. I emailed them Friday at 4 p.m. and it's a holiday today, so...
Oh, yeah.
But someday. Yeah. Anyway, we can probably get started.
They might answer it soon. You never know.
I feel bad. I'm just distracting.
No, I like it. I don't even know how many viewers we have, honestly, right now. I can't tell. I'm hoping that, like, it says we're live. I just don't know if, like, it actually sent messages to people. So, yeah. Anyways.
Let's check for additional content.
So, let's just do sound check. We have people. Okay, that's good. So let's just do a sound check. I'm guessing we can be heard okay, but is the game sound coming out? Oh, okay, cool. What did Jason say? It's live on my channel. Okay.
Oh, she said not currently.
Okay. Let me see what's wrong then.
Oh, then my earlier, like, bopping back and forth to the game music probably looked real weird. Oh, game audio.
Oh, why is it game audio, though? Crap.
Maybe click on it? I don't know what I'm doing.
It was working before. Can you go to a thing or something?
Like,
continue.
Like into the game?
Go to Discovery Tour. We might need to get Jason up here.
In the meantime, I will just narrate. Right now we're going through some sort of quantum tunneling thing, which is how we pretend to be in ancient Greece, without leaving the comfort of this room with a computer in it. Hold on, is that fact true? That's awesome.
Hey. Hi, tech help person.
But seriously, is this true?
What am I doing wrong? Flamethrower? Yes. They actually did have, like, siege.
Oh.
I can hear it through here.
Yeah. Do you want me to move?
No, let me look.
Just get real cozy in here?
Yeah. Ow. Okay, we're working on game stuff. Hold on, guys. Do we have to stop streaming?
No.
You put up that weird technical difficulty sign.
Maybe we do. Hang on.
Be right back.
Guys, we're gonna be right back. Sorry.
It's awesome. You got it.
Okay, so I think you guys can hear us now. Maybe. Game sound! Yay! Okay, we're good.
Are we already on a tour?
Huh?
Are we already on a tour?
Options. You gotta go open the tour menu.
Yeah, but I can ride a horse.
So to answer your question about warfare, they did have siege equipment.
Okay.
And siege things. So like big old towers that could move and everything so that they could scale walls.
Oh, like in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
obviously.
of course.
But did they it said flamethrowers, like they would have tubes that they would put like charcoal into.
Yeah, and then like have them, and they would get
Why is that not
catapults
in
and
any
stuff
of the
too.
movies?
I don't know.
Alright, so what do we want to do?
Okay, so we've got lots of options, chat, and you guys, we are going to let you guys figure out what we should play. So there is daily life. So let's just start with daily life.
Okay.
And then we'll let them pick from daily life.
So we already did
So
wine.
urban household, yeah, we started off with wine. Yay for us. The life of a Greek woman. bronze in Argos, perfume. The Laurion silver mines, also pronounced Lavrion.
No, that's a U.
Yeah, it's very complicated. There's no V in ancient Greek,
Oh, okay.
but sometimes the U becomes a V when they inscribe it because you can't really make curvy guys as much, and so
Sure.
then because of Romans messed up stuff. Wheat and agriculture, pottery in Athens, and dyeing and fashion. Dyeing like color,
Like
not.
Be a weird combination of topics.
All right, guys, you have your picks. Let us know. Also, let me know if you want me to move where we are on the screen as well.
Oh yeah, you can't read some of this stuff if I highlight it in the right spot.
Yeah, so we could move me or us to a different corner. Otherwise, I'm just gonna vote for like the life of a Greek woman because I really like it.
Wait, have you already done these tours? Is that how you
No,
know
I
all the
have
answers
not
to
done
everything?
these tours. I mean, I like the life of a Greek. I know a lot about the life of a Greek woman because in my online ancient Greek Civ course
Oh, okay.
that I teach at the University of Iowa.
Go Hawks.
Woo! I try and include as much information on women as I can, but we have very little, sadly.
Oh, really?
They're very domesticated, so you don't go out of the house, you don't do much.
But like, there's not. You mean we don't know much because of like there's not many writings, or
There's not many writings. We don't have many females that are authors. We don't have. We also have biased sources that tell
Guess that
us,
makes
like
sense.
Socrates' wife, for example. He describes her as a very difficult woman. But then one of my friends who does art, Stephanie, was like, she did a very cool drawing of Xanthippe, that's the woman that's married to Socrates.
Okay. It's like, I need more
And
than
she
that.
did a drawing of her, from what, and in it she was like, yeah, he says that she's difficult, but to be married to Socrates, honestly,
I was gonna say I don't know a lot about Socrates.
you
It
gotta
seemed
be
like he-
difficult,
yeah.
right?
All right. So, life of a Greek woman.
Yeah, although Allison just said bronze.
Sorry, you're the moderator.
Allison wins. Bronze
Oh,
it is.
Okay. I was gonna say we get to overrule you, but
Mm-mm. Bronze is a very fascinating technique. It requires the alloys of copper and tin.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It does, yeah, and it actually has a low or a higher smelting point, but not as high as iron.
Right.
So bronze is very popular in the Bronze Age, but the problem is that there is no source of tin in ancient Greece. So
Wait. So then, how do they make bronze?
um,
Or do they have to go steal it?
they have to import it from
sure.
places from the Near East.
Okay.
And so the Mycenaeans, who are in the Bronze Age, make or have very good trade contacts with that area, but then there is a lot of trade disruption and possibly caused by, like, who knows what. Honestly, there's a lot of
Right.
debate, but one might be the clash between the Hittites and the Egyptians that was happening at that time.
Where's that first group from?
The Hittites are in the Near East.
Okay.
They're like Turkey, Iran.
Okay.
And yeah, so they like have this battle called the Battle of Kadesh, and it's basically like a Pyrrhic victory for both of them. Like, the Egyptians win, but it's so it's so crippling that it's not great for either of them, and the Hittites get destroyed, but not totally. And so things were very, like, difficult. Anyways, so because the trade disruption that is a result of all of that mess, they cannot really get bronze
Huh.
because they
So-
need the iron, or they need the
tin?
tin
Yeah.
from the Near East. So Greece falls into what's called a Dark Age. I hate this term
Yeah. Wait.
because basically it's a reorganization, a political reorganization of the area.
Really? Just because they can't make bronze?
Well, it's a bunch of other things
Okay.
too. Like, there's trade disruption. There's a lot of population. A lot of the palaces get destroyed on Greece. And at that time in the Bronze Age, they are a kingdom.
Okay.
There's lots of different kingdoms.
Mhm.
But by the end of the Dark Age, a lot of places are now democracies or oligarchies or rules of multiple people. And so they've gone through really a political reformation
Yeah.
during that time.
Not what I would describe as a dark age.
Right, exactly. But because we don't have a lot of evidence archaeologically from that time period, and there does seem to be a major population decline during that time,
okay.
people argue, oh, it's a dark age. I prefer to call it the Iron Age, because that's when they start smelting iron, which requires more technology, because it needs a higher smelting point.
Yeah. But like they moved on to iron just because they couldn't make bronze.
Because they couldn't make bronze. Then they start
Necessity
getting
is the
tin
mother of
again.
invention.
It is, right? Just like now with Zoom.
Oh.
Zoom wasn't
our
really
achievements
popular
seem
until...
way less impressive.
Yeah.
Our dark ages, we all started meeting online for Zoom meetings.
Wouldn't this be terrible if it was a dark age?
Honestly, it'd be great, because if this is like the darkest it gets for a while, that'd be fantastic. Alright, should we start our tour and learn
Yeah,
about
let's do it.
the
Okay, so we're
sculpting
gonna
of
learn from
bronze?
Herodotus.
which you just told us a bunch about?
I did.
Welcome
and
to Argos, traveler.
do you get this, please?
Sure.
I have always admired the dedication of Greek metalworkers. Without them, we would not have the inspiring monuments that stir the hearts of Greek citizens everywhere.
True.
Well, real quick about that. Greece has like a relatively large amount of monuments, right?
Yes.
Why?
Why do they have so many monuments?
Yeah,
Compared to like North American archaeology?
Yeah, or like some Northern European groups.
They're...
And sorry, that's like a really unfair
No,
question to ask you
no.
to tell me why this culture is
Yeah.
different.
Well, they
But,
have a
like,
lot
do
of
they have-
marble
Okay.
and a lot of limestone.
Sure.
And it's relatively easy to get a hold of.
Okay.
As opposed to like the United States, where Native Americans didn't have like beasts of burden
Right.
to haul things, whereas they did in Greece.
Okay.
They did have cows and horses and things that could pull all of that stuff. And then further up north, they don't have any marble.
Okay.
They do have like limestone and stuff, but it's not nearly as like easy to get to.
I should
Marble
know if there
is
was something
nice.
special.
No, marble is nice too because it breaks very predictably. Because it is a metamorphic rock.
Still, someday we'll hit a field that I know things about. But not today.
But it breaks very predictably, much more predictably than like regular limestone because there's a lot of imperfections in regular limestone. But
Okay.
marble can break very easily in certain ways that you want it to.
Huh.
So,
Okay. So it could just be an ease of creation.
yes, yeah, exactly. Didn't need to, you know.
I didn't know if like they were obsessed with monuments for some
I mean,
weird
they
reason.
are, and actually, I think I told you this in the other one, where Sparta,
Yes.
remember Sparta, how they, like, don't have a lot of
Yeah.
monuments because they didn't care
Okay.
that much about it. Whereas Athens was like, we're gonna build these big-ass monuments. And it was Pericles that really started the whole Parthenon thing. They had temples before that, sure, but he was the one in Athens that was like, we're gonna devote a ton of money to, like, rebuilding Athens and making it even better. And he was criticized for it by some politicians in Athens.
Seems kind of like a waste, maybe.
That was exactly what their argument was, is that it was a waste, that it was basically like prostituting the city because you're making it look pretty for no reason whatsoever.
See, this is why I feel like those politicians and I would get along well, and why I don't do well in art museums.
I was gonna say, I was like, how do you feel about the arts?
I
in
have no
general,
problem
then,
with
and
like
funding
I
of
love the
arts?
idea of funding the arts, but I don't personally appreciate all of them all that much. I like theater. But
You would
that's 'cause I
not
was a
like going
theater
to
nerd.
an art museum with me.
No, I would not.
Jason hates going to an art museum with me. But, you know, whatever.
All right, I'm gonna begin the tour.
I don't know what her reaction
This
was
is Argos, one of the oldest cities in Greece.
to. Doubt
The
it. Not
Archaeologists
really.
were an ingenious people, famous for innovations in areas like military tactics. However,
Mycenae is older.
what they were most renowned for was their metallurgic artistry, especially with bronze. I hope you enjoy yourself. Look for me at the end of your visit.
So the reason that they're using bronze, though, when they have the technology to use iron, is because bronze is a better metal for sculpture than iron is. Iron
Okay.
won't maintain, like, it's stiff, it's gross, it's kind of, it's not an attractive looking metal.
Sure. I don't know much about smelting, but is
You're
there
going
something?
to.
Oh, that's true. Does bronze allow you to work with it longer before it cools at all, or no?
No.
Okay. And I felt like that should be something that would make a metal good for
Yeah.
sculpture.
I feel like it's also cheaper metal. It's a lot more frequent in Greece.
It's easier to find in Civilization 5
Is it?
than
I didn't know
iron.
that.
Yeah. Well, in my experience.
So there's a new game called Old World.
Oh yeah, you were trying to. Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
I started this.
The area
Yeah.
that would become Argos was inhabited as early as the 3rd millennium BCE, but it was in the 7th century BCE that it officially became a city-state. One of Argos's major pillars was its metallurgical industry. As far back as the 8th century BCE, the city was famed for making products like long dress pins and tripod cauldrons, as well as impeccable body armor. In addition to their technical excellence, the Argives were also creative, as seen in their masterful bronze sculpting, which became prominent in the city during the 6th and 5th century BCE.
Sorry, I interrupted you about Old World.
It's a game I want to play on this
But, oh, okay.
because it features like real ancient people. You don't get to play with them, play as them, but they interact with you. It looks cool.
I saw the game somewhere, but I haven't.
Yeah,
I've read
it's
much about
on
it.
Epic.
Yeah, that sounds.
Yeah, it's not on Steam. That's your phone, not my phone.
Bronze is an alloy composed of 90%.
Ooh. Oh no! What did I do? Whoops. Sorry.
What did you do? Oh,
I hit learn more.
That's an ingot.
Okay.
So that is actually a Bronze Age one too. It should be like dating around, I don't know, 1200 BCE. And actually it's not bronze, sorry, it's copper. So you had copper and you had tin ingots.
Okay.
Tin, bronze looks like that. Tin are like round. And they look like this. It's called the oxide pattern because it's like it's easier to carry that
okay.
way. And the tin is rarer. You only need a certain percentage of tin. You don't need a smaller percentage of tin to bronze or to copper. You need more
Interesting.
copper.
Okay. Sorry, I can put us back to the.
Oh yeah, it
Really?
says this copper ingot is in an animal skin shape.
Oh yeah.
We call it an oxide.
Huh.
It's very cool.
Copper and 10% tin.
Oh, 10%.
10%.
Because of this, copper and tin needed to be smelted and combined to create the material needed for sculpting. After the bronze alloy was formed, it was melted in special furnaces. They required a tremendous amount of fuel and were usually supplied with charcoal made from specific types of wood. It's possible they were also coated with a protective lining of clay, which would have been sensible given the melting point of bronze is approximately 950 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
Once the bronze was melted and collected,
Iron is like
the furnaces were
1050.
dismantled and dumped.
Yeah, smelting is a really like long process
Yeah.
because you have to get all the impurities out. But if you're importing it from another place, they usually get the impurities out first, and then they ship it,
Oh, okay.
and then you have to mix everything together. And yeah, 90% copper, 10% tin, and again, tin is only found in like northern Europe, I believe, and then Afghanistan seems to be the place where it's imported from, for Greece at least.
Huh.
But that's like a really effing far away.
Yeah. Well. Right.
Yeah.
When you don't have planes.
Yeah.
950 degrees. Wow. So like, you don't really want to get too close to these things.
No, probably not. But go ahead and jump in, see what happens. Oh, you can't? Oh, you can. Ooh.
This feels like it should be hurting me.
Yeah, it should really hurt.
Okay.
Alas.
That wasn't really as visually interesting as I thought it would be.
Yeah. I think they've reproduced a lot of these ideas of smelting from face paintings, what we have on face paintings, rather
Ah,
than...
like you mean them in the game?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Rather than, like, what we have in real life. I don't think we have a lot of like
like
smelting
actual-
factories. Because
What-
besides finding like slag, which is
Mhm.
the leftover, there's not much else.
I guess that makes sense. This last one claims
Mm-hmm.
that they would like dismantle them after they were done.
Yeah, you don't need them. Like,
Hmm.
it's a pretty portable kind of thing. So, yeah.
In
If
the
I could
8th century
talk about lost
BCE,
wax process.
most small-scale statues were molded using a complicated and lengthy method called solid lost wax casting. From the 7th century BCE onwards, metalworkers adopted the more efficient hollow lost wax casting. At its core, this process involved using sculpting models from wax, making molds over these models, then filling the molds with bronze to produce the
Three-part
desired
process.
shapes. The process was advantageous because it saved on materials, produced lighter statues, and reduced the chance of possible defects.
And then you can, well, you can't really reuse the mold over and over again is the problem.
Right.
Because you usually have to break it.
To get
To
your
get the
statue.
thing out.
Yeah.
But you would have little pegs coming off of it as well
Mhm.
that were made of bronze. So you'd sculpt your statue in...
Why the pegs?
The pegs are so that there is some way of keeping space between where the wax is and where the mold is.
Okay.
So, and then you're going to have the mold and you need the pegs, and it's all for structure and keeping, like, the space separate. You often would bury, actually, them. You do it in parts, like there's a head right there,
Yeah.
right? So you'd do it in parts and then chip off the pegs that were sticking out and sand it down
Mm-hmm.
so that it would look a little bit better.
Huh. So, we had a question that so these things,
Mhm.
these smelting containers, whatever,
Yes.
what are these made of?
Clay.
Maybe I just don't understand clay.
Clay can actually hold a very hot temperature.
That was obviously,
Yeah.
obviously you anticipated what I was confused about.
It holds a really hot temperature.
I did not know that. I would have thought it would like crack or
It
something.
can. I mean, it can, but it depends on what type of clay you're using.
Hmm.
Coarser clay only deals with large or with lower temperatures,
Okay.
or else it will crack. Whereas finer clay can handle higher temperatures.
So I feel like if this cracks and you're working here, you're probably going to die. If you're nearby.
I don't know if you would die. It might result in a slower process of like smelting.
Well, I meant like if I'm like right here and it starts to crack,
Oh,
I'm probably in trouble.
maybe. Yeah, might hurt.
My only analogy
I don't
is
think it's
I have a
gonna
cousin who
explode.
works in a steel factory, and that
Oh,
sounds pretty
God.
terrifying.
That does sound terrifying.
Although steel, much hotter than
Yeah.
bronze.
All of these statues, by the way, are like giant, and while they did have like larger than life-size statues, they
They weren't like everywhere.
Yeah. Most statues were like life-size at biggest.
Okay. Yeah, I guess these would be kind of a pain. You'd need scaffoldings
Yeah.
like this all the
You
time.
need a lot of crap. So, but this is like the monumentality that comes with the game.
Yeah.
I guess I should tell people on Facebook that I'm online.
Once all the pieces of the sculpture were molded, they were welded together and subjected to the cold working process. This process involved repairing the sculpture's flaws by filling any holes and cracks with specifically measured bronze patches. Afterwards, the sculpture was scraped, chiseled, and polished until it was deemed satisfactory. Decorative details like hair, eyebrows, and moustaches were added with the use of a sharp tool. Eyes, which could be inset with ivory, glass, or silver, were attached to their sockets using a resinous kind of glue. Teeth and fingernails were inlaid with silver, and lips and nipples with copper. These small touches added color and contributed to the sculpture's lifelike appearance.
Oh, that's kind of cool. I never knew about those details.
Yeah. Sadly, we don't have a lot of bronze today
Mm-hmm.
because it can be melted down. Bronze statues, because it can be melted down and reused.
Right.
And additionally, it can like disintegrate as well, much easier than marble.
Right.
So for that reason, we don't have a lot. It corrodes and everything. What we do have mostly comes from shipwrecks.
Oh, like if they were transporting. or
Yeah,
something.
and that happens a lot because Romans bring a lot of stuff over from Greece. And yeah, there's shipwrecks and stuff, and So shipwreck archaeology or nautical archaeology is very cool. I would kind of wish that I could do it. But you need a lot of like training and scuba.
I was gonna say, do you actually like go scuba down to the
I
sites
have
and
not.
stuff?
Yeah, you have to scuba down there, and you have like vacuums that suck up stuff, and it's a really technical process.
I've never scuba, but even snorkeling was too much for me, so I don't think I'd handle scuba diving very well.
Yeah.
I don't like when I can't see everything around me. So
Yeah,
like
I don't like water where I can't touch.
Thalassophobia.
Is that what it's called?
I learned about this because
Oh.
an embarrassing story, but from playing a video game, I got so freaked out that I was like, "What is it called when you freak out when you can't see like the bottom of the water?"
Yeah.
And it's thalassophobia.
Oh well.
Uh-oh. You about to educate me on what it's actually called?
Yeah, it's just fear of the sea. Technically,
Is
you
it?
want to go for like the name, the Greek,
Hmm.
because thalassa
Mm-hmm.
is sea in Greek.
That makes sense.
So.
I'll Google it later to make
Yeah.
sure, but I'm pretty sure. It's
But
what
I
it's
mean,
called.
it could be our modern thing that
Right, I
we
was gonna
have
say, I don't know if that's
sadly
actually what it
misinterpreted.
means.
Yeah, that we have sadly misinterpreted or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
Just realized that my volume can be adjusted.
Bronze sculptures
This is
have
fine.
a long and varied history in Greece. During the geometric period of 900 to 700 BCE, the sculptures mainly depicted idealized heroes, charioteers, and horses, and most of them were dedicated to sanctuaries.
Well, they were smaller.
The Orientalizing period followed in the 7th century BCE. During this time, Greeks began adopting sculpting techniques from the East, and the depicted statues expanded to include mythological creatures like griffins and sphinxes. The Archaic period saw statues that reflected a better understanding of human anatomy, which eventually culminated in the realistic and powerful human sculptures of the Hellenistic period.
Honestly, period art is really crazy. Classical's like what you think about. That, the Riace warrior, there were a group of them that were found.
Mm-hmm.
And we think that one might be Odysseus, actually.
Right up here.
No, the one that was in that inset, the inlay field. I don't know if you could have clicked on that or not,
Oh.
but it was a while ago.
Oh, down at the bottom left.
Yeah, the bottom corner. They probably couldn't see it because it was covered there.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry.
I should probably move that. I guess
that way
there's
they don't know
nothing-
what they're missing when we don't focus on this
That's
part.
true, and I can use it to my advantage.
So I want to clarify. Thalassophobia does directly obviously mean fear of the sea,
Mhm.
but as a condition it can mean many things, which mostly is fear of like the vastness or like invisibility of parts of the sea, or it can be distance from land that people are afraid of
Oh, interesting. Okay.
as like a diagnosable phobia.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Interesting.
I learned that from playing Subnautica, which is a really good game.
Polyclitus's workshop, that is saying right
Oh, yeah.
there. I guess, no, never mind. We have Phidias's workshop in Olympia.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we have Polyclitus, but he was a very well-known sculptor.
Huh. So, did people sign their work? Or were they just well known because they just were so prolific
Not
in their
the
region?
sculpture itself, but the base that the sculpture was on.
Oh, okay, so like
Yeah,
Down
so
here
yeah,
somewhere.
on that there would have been an inscription. Just shove her out of the way. So on that there would have been an inscription saying something like, so and so dedicated this to Zeus. It was made by blah blah.
okay.
And actually, Pausanias travels around Greece in the second century CE.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes around reading and recording all of the statue bases and
Oh, wow.
statues. Yeah, so we have like something like 200 statue base inscriptions thanks to him
That's kind of cool.
from that time period.
Just like cataloging everything.
Yeah. What's really cool is he's done stuff where he's like, okay, I'm in the Temple of Hera, you can find, this and this and this and this and this. And then they excavated the Temple of Hera
Mm-hmm.
and found that
Oh wow,
stuff.
like the stuff that he'd said.
Yeah,
before. That's
it's
kinda
very cool. So like there's a statue of of Hermes holding baby Dionysus.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, we found that.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. I don't remember who did that.
Argos was the home of
I feel like it was
Polyclitus,
Polyclitus.
one of the most famous sculptors in ancient Greece. His works, like the Doryphorus and Diadomenos, as well as his treatise on sculpting called the Canon, had a massive impact on the art as a whole, particularly in regards to ideal body proportions. Sadly, the original versions of Polykleitos' sculptures have been lost, along with most bronze statues from antiquity. As time went on, many bronze statues were melted down to be recycled in things like weapons, ammunition, and even church bells. Because of this, marble copies from the Roman period are our best evidence of the masterpieces of Greek sculpture.
We have a lot of marble. And yeah, it's just Romans they're learning to be good sculptors.
So they would like imitate?
So they'd imitate it. They'd make a copy of it in marble rather than in bronze.
Huh.
So. But yeah, it's sad. We're missing so much stuff.
Oh, we're gonna take a quiz, aren't we?
Oh, are we already? Jeez, that
Yeah,
was
that was
quick.
the end.
Oh, I could give you a lot more information, but whatever.
I mean, you can.
Nah. I mean, I really like the lost wax technique. There's a really good video, actually. I forget which museum has it, but it shows the whole process really, really well. But yeah, bronze is, you can use it for a lot of different things, but most statues were like little guys or like life-size guys. These big guys are just so incredibly rare.
Were life-size particularly common, or was it mostly like little tiny sculptures, and then the human-sized ones were like the fancy?
Yeah, the human size, like the life-size ones are for like if you're wealthy and dedicating it, or
Yeah.
they're almost all dedications.
Oh,
They're not
okay.
really used as like monuments for like graves and stuff. That's
Okay.
more stone. If they're gonna do something like that, they'll use stone rather than bronze.
Interesting.
But there's a nice bellows system back there. So you pump in the air, right, into the thing, and then down lower is where you shove in all of the wood on the other side, and then the smelting, the slag, and everything comes out on that side.
Huh.
So,
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
yeah, it's a pretty interesting process. It's just a really slow and long process. Love how they just throw art everywhere like this. I miss Greece.
I see you have completed your tour. I trust you have a new appreciation for Greek sculptures after learning of the heart and soul that was poured into each step of their creation. Now, what else would you like to do?
Take a quiz?
Yeah, why not? I'll get these wrong.
Sure.
Then let us dive right in. Here is your first question. Which era of sculpting came first?
Do you remember?
I know not this.
Not that one. That's the last one.
This was mentioned somewhat early. But I
It
don't
is
remember if was
early,
the first
but it's
one.
not the first.
Classical?
Nope.
What? Geometric?
Yep.
Really?
So geometric is, as it sounds, very geometric art. It's kind of crude shaped.
Okay.
So horses look really weird. They look like they're very angular, narrow-bodied, like very lots of shapes.
Yeah.
And that's actually named
That
after
makes sense
geometric
as the
pottery.
first period.
Yeah. And then the Orientalizing period, because they resume lots of connections with the Near East. And so they bring in lots of things like griffins, sphinxes,
Oh, right. Yeah, I remember them saying that.
panthers, lions, lots of those motifs that are all very Near Eastern.
It's a really interesting mix of like real and made up
Yeah,
animals.
right? And then you get the classical period where they kind of come into their own.
Right. And I remember this was when they focused on like their understanding
It's
of human anatomy.
craziness. Yeah, they get emotion.
Hmm.
You see age as well. Emotion and age. Lots of fun stuff.
Correct. The geometric period lasted from 900 to 700 BCE and mostly featured small-scale statues and statuettes of heroes and horses. On to the second question. Bronze was an alloy composed of which two metals?
Come on, you can do it. Yes.
Yes. To get the bronze required for sculpting, metal workers first needed to smelt copper and tin. One last question for you. which renowned sculptor was a native of Argos.
It was literally just on the screen. This one.
Yep.
Yes, Polykleitos was based in Argos and had an
Polykleitos.
enormous impact on the art of sculpting.
It's a very modern
You've done
way
well,
of saying
Captain.
things.
Your knowledge of metalwork is astounding.
Oh, thank you. Random tour? We could do a random tour and just see where it
Yeah.
takes us.
And I guess if it takes us to one we've already done, we just pick a new one. I don't remember what happens if you pick a wrong answer, although I did it plenty last time.
Oh, it just tells you, like,
Does it tell you the
nope,
right
try
answer?
again.
Okay.
Nope, try again. Nope, try again. Because remember we did the
Just
wine
like when you
one?
take tests in college.
Oh, of course. That's exactly
if you get the wrong
same
answer,
way.
you have to try again. Alright, random tour it is.
Of
Yeah, let's do
course. Come with me.
Yeah, Greeks are smart. Yeah, that's true.
Hmm.
You just, well, a lot of Greek cities are on islands.
Right.
It's really easy to, like, starve them
'cause
out.
In the non-Discovery Tour version of the game, like
Yeah.
part of what you can do that's like unrelated to the main story is like pick a side and help Athens or Sparta capture territories.
Oh, God.
And one of the ways you can do that is if you just go, you can like sneak into a place and destroy all their food stores.
That's so mean.
Yeah. But it's just a video game.
True, it's not real life, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm not actually doing this to the ancient Greeks. Which one is this?
I don't know.
I guess I'll find out.
Ooh, Sanctuary of Asclepios. This'll be fun.
Say that last word.
Asclepius.
No, like at.
Oh, Epidaurus.
That's what
Well,
I thought.
that's okay. So they're gonna say Epidaurus
Okay.
because that's the modern way of pronouncing it.
Huh.
Epidaurus.
It's funny because
but-
that sounds
Yeah.
more removed from how I would have pronounced it.
Yeah.
So I would assume that was the ancient Greek.
But Epidaurus is what, like, English archaeologists say.
Okay.
It is a healing cult.
Oh,
So
really?
we're gonna learn about ancient medicine,
Ooh.
which is very exciting. It has a lot to do with dreams and snakes.
Oh, I think you mentioned the snakes thing
Mhm.
last time, and I was like,
Look
I
in
would
your
not just be
ears.
treated first. That's true. In the main game, you also just murder people.
Yeah, that's true.
So-
That's true.
Welcome, traveler, to the Sanctuary of Asclepios, a place of rest and healing.
What do you think of this place, Herodotus?
Seems okay.
The Sanctuary of Asclepios is an amazing place, even for those with only a passing interest in medicine. It was a fascinating location, combining the mystical, religious, and scientific. And if someone happened to pass out, they'd luckily be surrounded by skilled physicians.
I don't know how skilled. There was no formal training for doctors. It was more of a like
This is the
apprenticeship
Sanctuary of
thing of
Asclepios,
you're just kind
the
of like
god of
peasant
medicine.
go.
It was here that the sick and weary came, seeking cures for
No.
their ailments.
This is a
Sometimes
oh
the medical
cool. They have the
practitioners provided
Tholos
the
being
cures,
built right
and
there. That
sometimes
round
the
building.
healing came
is it?
from the gods
It's called the
themselves.
Tholos.
This
That's where we
tour
think maybe
will
the
help
snakes
explain the inner workings of
Not
the
sure.
sanctuary, as well as the unique way the Greeks approached medicine. I hope you enjoy yourself. I'll be waiting for you at the end of your visit.
I broke my leg. No, they wouldn't use venomous snakes. Maybe non-venomous. Another satisfaction. All right.
The
So
ill and
you,
infirm
I
came
got
to
too
this
close.
sanctuary to
No, you're
pray
fine.
I thought
and
so.
offer sacrifices to Asclepios, the god of medicine. According to myth, Asclepios was once a mortal physician who eventually
Wow.
became a god. He had
Right,
many
he's the son
sanctuaries
of
across Greece,
Apollo?
but the most famous was in Epidaurus. When pilgrims
they said
passed through the
Epidaurus.
entrance of the
That's good.
sanctuary, they could read this inscription: "When you enter the abode of the god which smells of incense, you must be pure, and thought is pure when you think with piety."
So you are about to enter. They're actually, I don't know what side we're on actually. but there is a propylaea, a gateway,
Mhm.
that marks the formal entry into the area.
I'm not sure where I'm passing.
What's really fascinating is I just found out that they are remodeling that entire site and making it so that you enter in the way ancient Greeks would have entered in. Right
Oh.
now it's totally backwards. You enter in a weird side
Hmm.
because the biggest thing that is there right now and the thing that everyone loves is the theater. There's a theater there in the
Where
sanctuary.
you go to get healed?
Yeah, in the sanctuary, and it is still used today to put on
For recovering patients?
to put on plays.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like you rest, relax, watch a play.
No, they do a really cool thing where they even put the it's in modern Greek, the
Mhm.
plays, and they'll do like ancient Greek plays
Oh, that's kind of cool.
in modern Greek, and then they'll put English subtitles. They'll project them
Oh, okay.
so that people who don't know modern Greek can still follow along.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's very cool. I've seen Agamemnon, I've seen Lysistrata, I've seen a bunch of other plays that are just hilarious and awesome and just really good. And yeah. Oh, my favorite was
Huh.
Seven Against Thebes, I think.
Yeah, that'd be kind of a fun thing
God.
to do while you're
Are you
visiting.
gonna be surrounded by like really sickly people that
Oh,
are just
no.
vomiting
I'm
everywhere?
just gonna
Oh
socially-
god!
I'm gonna distance myself.
There are 7 tour stations in this one? Jesus.
We'll stay 6 feet away. Ooh, what's this thing up here?
Yeah, stay 6 feet.
Oh, what is this?
I don't know. Oh, the baths. Okay. Were there Greek? I know there were Roman baths. I don't know if there were Greek baths in the sanctuary, but there must be, I guess. Romans are much better at baths than Greeks are
Wait, in what sense?
in constructing them.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like
Um,
at taking them. Like, Greeks are just
No,
really bad.
at constructing them. They're very like. Yeah, they have a whole heating system called the hypocaust system,
Oh, okay.
where the floors are heated.
Ooh.
Even, and you have different like you have a cold bath, you have a warm bath, and you have a hot bath.
So the Greeks just all have one temperature?
No, I actually don't know much about Greek baths. I know a lot about Roman baths, oddly enough. But yeah, the Sanctuary of Asclepius is really interesting because they actually have some little hints at an understanding of germs.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to walk into that area, there's a bath or a well
Oh, okay.
next to the gateway where you have to wash your hands.
Oh, okay. So they're
So-
doing better than we're doing with our procedures for dealing with the pandemic.
Yeah. I love you, bird. Alright, so let's do it. See what they
Medical
talk about first.
steles constituted
Yeah.
a sort of hub between medicine, religion, and the divine. They were slabs with inscriptions that praised Asclepios' virtues and merit, and described his methods of healing. The inscriptions relayed the dreams patients had within the abaton, one of the most important
Abaton.
buildings in the sanctuary. The steles outlined the patient's name, their disease, and how they were cured by Asclepios. They were probably written by the sanctuary's priests, or at least under the priest's supervision. Asclepios was a complex deity. In addition to being a god, he was also a trained physician and disciple of the centaur Chiron.
He's killed by Zeus.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, sorry. Well, he starts bringing back people from the dead for a
Okay.
price.
Yeah, that seems probably not great.
And Zeus was like, humans can't do that, dude. And so he lightning bolts him. And then the people are really sad because they're like, dude, you took away our healer. And Zeus is like, oh, I feel bad. Okay, we'll make him immortal now. But that's the trend, is
Is that how he became a god? Or was he already
Yeah,
a god?
that's how he
and
became
then he
a
got
god.
killed as a god?
he was a demigod before. His father is Apollo.
Mm-hmm.
His mother is, you're gonna love this one, Coronis. Yeah, so on my myth homepage when the coronavirus broke, I put actually a stele, a picture of Asclepius, and had all these people praying to it, that has all these people praying to him. And I have them with thought bubbles saying like, help us Asclepius, the coronavirus is killing us.
Aw.
And then he says, wait, what'd you say about my mom? Because I'm
Aw.
hilarious.
Yeah, those
So
are the jokes
funny.
that I don't want to like, but I do.
I know.
Because I'm really a big fan of really bad jokes.
But Coronis and Corona in Roman means crown.
Right.
In Latin means crown. So it's crown.
Oh, that one I actually knew, but
Yeah.
I knew that from astrology.
Oh. From
That's weird.
astrology?
Yeah, not astronomy. I don't remember why.
Oh.
It was just something I read once.
Okay.
I mean, it's also an astronomical.
I mean,
term,
there is,
'cause
like,
the
yeah.
corona is the
Oh, that's
here on the star.
true,
The one
yeah.
that punching my microphone.
Well, there's also, like, the crown of Ariadne or something. There's a actual constellation, I think.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know much about constellations.
I just know that most of them are Greek myths.
I just know how to find the Big Dipper.
Yeah. And Orion.
Yeah, sure. That one doesn't count. Everyone knows that.
Wait, go back. There was another purple node.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Al.
Oh, this is what you're talking about. Maybe.
Purification. Yeah, that must be the well. That's not what the well looked like in real life, though.
Not
That's
not that
way
fancy.
too nice. It's like an infinity pool. I should show you a picture. The well itself is just like a hole in the ground. Oh my god! That's sacred water! What are you doing?
It's getting clean.
Oh well, you're clean now.
Guess I didn't really understand the purpose.
Is that all it said?
I think there was an option to like read more. Learn.
Two and washing themselves. Purification, blah blah blah. Even Hippocratic author.
See, I had to purify myself before I could enter.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of things in religion are tied to germ theories. So, like, whenever there's a plague in a myth, it's usually because someone did something wrong, right?
I don't think that's how germs work.
No, but I mean, like, you know, if you leave a body out once someone's died,
Sure.
that's probably a bad thing. And so we have, for example, like, Antigone, the play Antigone, where Creon refuses to bury one of these guys, her Antigone's brother, and she's like, no, you have to bury everyone. Everyone needs to be buried, regardless of what they did. And it's because of like they use religion as a way of enforcing germs and like hygiene.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense, right?
Yeah. So wash your hands, purify yourself. You wash your hands before you slaughter an animal and before you butcher an animal for sacrifice. So all these things are like it's there. You can tell that they knew. Like, oh, I should wash my hands. But they apply it to religion then as a result, as a way of enforcing it, because they don't really have policemen, basically.
Right.
Not that policemen are helping right now when it comes to like arresting people for not wearing masks, because we can't do that. But yeah, this is the problem. So interesting stuff. I like the use of like religion to enforce laws and like hygiene. It's really interesting to me.
Oh, okay. Thought you meant like generally
No,
speaking.
I took like an anthropology of religion course, and it was fascinating.
Oh, that would be kind of cool.
It was so cool. It was a very cool class.
So, was it mostly focused on like classical stuff? or
No, it
like,
was
sorts
all
of different
religions. Like we even talked about Catholicism and everything. I made someone really angry because I said that Catholicism sounds polytheistic.
Hold on. I want to follow up on that.
Yeah.
How?
Because you're praying to saints.
Kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. And these people are basically like deified, almost.
I mean, more so than a lot of other Christian sects. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. You have a
But-
lot of saints.
We do. I was raised Catholic.
Oh,
I'm not actually.
my mom's Catholic.
Religious
So,
at this point, but
yeah.
I went to 12 years of Catholic school. That was fun.
You didn't learn Latin?
No, I had the option,
No.
but I chose not to.
That's nice. You should
Yeah.
have learned Latin.
I took Spanish.
Latin is fun.
Yeah, but Spanish seemed practical at the
Yeah,
time.
I mean it is, but Latin is too.
Sure. I think you and I have a different definition of practical. Like, Latin is very useful for figuring out what words mean.
Yep.
In many
And
cases,
Greek.
not in all cases. Yeah, I had
I
that
want
option
you to
for
chase
Greek
that
as well.
rooster. Is it bad that I want you to chase that rooster? I just think roosters are funny. Actually, funny thing about roosters, when Socrates committed suicide, was forced to commit suicide,
Yeah.
before he did that, before he drank hemlock, he said, "We owe a cock to Asclepius."
Why?
a rooster to Asclepius.
Well, I get the...
We're not really sure why. It doesn't seem like roosters were like a major thing that you offered to Asclepius, and yet we have Socrates saying that before.
But also, why
So-
specifically Asclepius, if he was...
Oh, because he's the god of healing,
Yeah, but...
he's
he was
also the
gonna
god of
die.
health, and well, he's hoping that he dies well, as
Ah,
opposed
okay.
to like painfully.
Sure.
So, and plus he lived to be almost 70, so
Oh, wow, really?
that's why he's. Remember last time we saw
Yeah.
he said like, "You guys, I was gonna die anyway."
Yeah, but, like, that's still just such a shocking age when you
Yeah.
think of... Like, I understand that we talked last time about how it's, like...
Life
getting old wasn't
expectancy is probably
super
like,
rare.
yeah, it's not super like life expectancy is probably like 50s for guys,
Huh.
but like there were plenty of people that lived much longer.
I was hoping we'd get, like, a Legend of Zelda type response if I could ask this enough.
No, sadly, it's just gonna be angry at you.
Oh, more.
More purple. Oh, more chickens. Okay, we're done with the chickens.
Oh, sorry, also more purple.
More purple. This is the Temple of Asclepius. Yes, it is. Actually, that looks really good. It's smaller, which is really interesting. It's smaller than other temples, but because maybe like it wasn't a terribly wealthy sanctuary. The temples of Asclepius don't get like sanctuaries of Asclepius don't get really big until like the 4th and 3rd century BCE. Until then, it's like the understanding of medicine is really poor, sadly. One problem is because they will not allow for human dissection.
Yeah, I guess that would kind of hinder your
So,
knowledge.
Yeah, you can't like learn about the body.
And yet they had some pretty good guesses.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was one of the ancient Greeks, I don't remember which one, who thought the brain was just there to cool the body.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Someone thought that. I'm
Is
pretty
that
sure it was an
true?
ancient Greek. No.
Okay.
But like they thought the heart was like where most of your thoughts happen, and the brain was there, which kind of makes sense because when you get a fever, the first part that you notice gets warm is your face, and so they
Yeah.
were like, oh, the brain's just there to help cool you down.
Yeah, it's your refrigerator.
Which again, fine guess for people who weren't allowed to dissect bodies. Like I don't know.
Yeah, seeing as like
We
all
still
your
don't
blood
understand what the
goes
brain
there.
actually, how it actually works, for the most part.
Brains are weird.
Yeah, they are.
So we might be talking about sleeping
In
the
ancient
sanctuary.
Greece,
No, not yet.
religion was inseparable from rites, processions, and sacrifices. This was no different in Epidaurus, and visitors to Asclepios' sanctuary needed to prepare themselves accordingly. Pilgrims cleaned themselves in order to be pure, then offered Asclepios food like honey cakes, cheesecakes, baked meats, and figs. The food was placed on the sanctuary's holy table, where it was presumably later taken by priests.
Yeah.
After the preliminary offerings, visitors were allowed to enter the abaton, where they would hopefully encounter Asclepios in a dream.
Dream.
Medical steles also mention that healed patients sometimes gave additional offerings to Asclepios as thanks for being cured.
Yeah, there's some really cool ones. But they're all like, so they either look like that one down there.
Mm-hmm.
This is Asclepius, that big guy. So the big guy is Asclepius. Probably the woman next to him is Hygeia, his daughter. Yeah. Hygeia is his
yeah.
daughter. Her name means health.
Oh, it's a little on the nose.
I
but
know,
Okay.
it's sad. But then, yeah, all the people are shown, like the mortals are shown very small.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're about to sacrifice that ox.
Oh,
But everyone's shown very small, and then he's, big, because he's a god, and
Sure.
she's also a god, and so they look very big.
wait, she's also a god?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. She's like a nymph. Well, no, I suppose she's a goddess. She's just a lesser goddess. Asclepius is already a lesser god. but
Right. Huh.
Yeah. It's fascinating stuff. We have some that are just like body parts, though.
So,
Like
was anyone in
sculptures' body
Greek,
parts.
in like ancient Greece, and I assume the answer to this is no, like agnostic, or like, this god stuff doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense.
Well, I mean, there's arguments. Well, Socrates was put on trial for.
Oh.
One of the things he was put on trial is corrupting the youth,
I remember you mentioned that one.
but also introducing new gods,
Oh.
because he believed that there was a god called a daimon, which
Okay.
sounds like demon, but it's
Sure.
not. But a daimon is like a guardian angel. Basically, it tells him what to do, what's wrong. It's like his Jiminy Cricket. Yeah, it's his conscience basically, but he maintained that it was like immortal and that everyone had one and all this other stuff.
Huh.
So, but there were like misconceptions that he was actually like an atheist or preached against religion, which he did not do.
Okay.
He very much follows like all the gods, hence the like we owe a cock to Asclepius kind of thing. So yeah, like there are people that maintain that the representation of the gods is incorrect.
Okay.
And so a lot of our philosophers, especially around the 5th, 4th century BCE, start questioning Homer's versions of the gods,
Okay.
where the gods like are immoral and
Right.
they sleep around and they cheat on and they like do all these things that are not okay. And that they're shown in a comical light. Like they make fun of, like the gods are all sitting around laughing at Hephaestus.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, well, that's not how that's not how the gods really are. Because as philosophy gets more and more advanced, they argue that the gods are role models, basically,
Right.
for humans. And so there's questions as to, okay, maybe the gods exist, but there are different ways that they're represented. And so Homer's versions are more of, like, analogies or metaphors, rather than true representations of gods.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of
I
debate.
mean, it feels like, yeah, it'd be pretty hard to be, like, an actual, like,
It is
complete non-believer in this society.
because there's no separation between church and state.
Right.
So if you're going to work your way up the ladder, basically, the political ladder, you're going to serve as a priest at some point of something.
Oh.
Yeah, so
didn't
like
realize that was that common.
Pausanias actually served as a priest of Apollo at Delphi.
Mm-hmm.
And then he later goes on to say in like one of his works, like, the Greeks believed this and this and this, and isn't that stupid or something? And it's like, wait, you were one of those guys that was like you were a priest of Apollo. Why are you bashing like what the priests of Apollo are doing?
Yeah, that's a little weird.
So it's really interesting. Guest house.
Oh.
Yeah, because you
Kinda.
needed like, so this would have been outside of the sanctuary itself,
Okay.
the border limits, because you're not really like supposed to do lots of domestic things within a sanctuary, unless it's a healing cult, in which I guess you can sleep in it. But yeah,
Sorry,
they
I'm
have,
like
it's like a hotel. Hotels are very rare, actually, in ancient Greece.
Like, even, like, inns and stuff?
Yeah. So we have them at like, we have one at Olympia, we have one at Epidaurus. It's places where there are going to be pilgrims coming
Right.
to them, but in general, it's like you don't really get them very often, so you often would stay with strangers.
Okay, I was gonna ask, did people just not travel enough to work
No,
it,
they
or-
did travel,
okay.
but they would stay with strangers. It was a
Like
process
couch
called
surfing.
xenia. Yeah. Yeah, basically.
Okay.
And it was a very like sacred traditional belief that you would be a good guest and they would be a good host. You wouldn't kill your guests.
Okay,
you
I was
wouldn't
about to
kill
ask,
your
was there, like,
host.
some belief that, like,
Yeah,
there was, like, this
it's
covenant
like a,
between
it's a
hosts?
tradition.
Okay.
So much so that in Homer, there are two guys fighting, and they stop before they fight, and they're like, "Hey, aren't you so and so? My dad hosted your dad.
Huh.
Let's not fight and kill each other."
But then they fight?
No,
Oh, okay.
they trade armor with each other,
Okay.
and then they go off and kill each other's friends.
Oh, well, that seems... I mean, there's ups and downs to this, but that feels like a pretty big net loss for,
Yeah,
like, the group.
it's so weird that they were just like, we're gonna stop our battle,
Huh.
trade armor, and then go off and kill other people, but we're not gonna kill each other because we have this sacred bond that our fathers started, not us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you gotta
it's
make sure,
crazy.
like, when you're recruiting for your, like, military units, you're like, do you have any friends? Or, like,
Yeah.
friends of friends of
Yeah,
the family?
I'd be like, if you don't, then you're in. If you do, hold on.
Snakes.
Snakes, lots of snakes.
The next place. Oh, sorry.
Asclepius was originally born immortal and was the product of an affair between the god Apollo and immortal Coronis. Apollo killed Coronis after discovering she had been unfaithful and ordered her body burned on a funeral pyre.
Wow.
However,
But
he rescued his unborn child from Coronis's womb before the fire consumed her
C-section.
body. Apollo gave the baby to the centaur Chiron, who raised Asclepios and taught him to practice medicine. Over time, Asclepios became so skilled in the art of healing, he could even raise the dead. This angered Zeus, who sent Asclepios to Hades with a thunderbolt. Apollo retaliated by killing the Cyclopes, responsible for making Zeus's thunderbolts. Then, Zeus revived Asclepios, making him immortal and deifying him in the process.
those are all offerings, thank offerings.
In
those
sculptures,
body parts.
pottery, mosaics, and coins, Asclepios was portrayed holding a staff intertwined with a
He
sacred
also has
snake.
a dog sitting
The
down.
staff is a
on
symbol of
his
medicine
throne,
that still
or at least he
endures
should,
to this day.
because a dog. Well, hold on. Okay, so the myth goes that when Coronis cheated on Apollo,
Mhm.
he kills her and then rescues the baby Asclepius.
Yep.
But then leaves the baby to be found by Chiron, and the baby is nursed by a dog.
Oh. Okay.
And so there's, according to Pausanias, the statue here that shows, the staff on the other side of him should be a dog laying down, but you
They
don't see
forgot
that.
that part.
They did. So all those things, those body parts over there, those are all terracotta. You can also have stone ones, but terracotta is more common. And those are all the parts that were healed. And usually there's an inscription on them saying, like, thank you, Asclepius, you healed my leg. Or thank you, so-and-so, you healed my,
More than interesting. Can you imagine if we did that, like when you went to the doctor?
Oh, yeah,
Like,
right?
Oh, I broke my finger. Here.
You know what's really fascinating?
There's this terracotta sculpture.
Modern Greeks still do it.
Wait, really?
Yeah, so they'll go to their modern Greek Orthodox churches.
Uh-huh.
They have saints who are healers.
Okay.
And they have little plaques that you can buy that are made of like aluminum or whatever, but it has the body part.
Sorry,
and
laughing
then-
in chat.
Oh, no.
Thanks, Asclepius. You healed my ED. But so they leave it in the church?
There actually are a lot of penises in our,
Sure.
yeah. But yeah, they leave it in the church then. And so they're just these little like, aluminum things that have like an eye on them if you needed your eye healed, or
That's very
you
weird.
were thanking the god for healing, the saint for healing your eye.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing.
Hmm.
They did it then, they do it now. It's just, that's how rooted in tradition it is.
Yeah, I've only been to a Greek Orthodox church once, but like you get
They're
that sense from just being in there.
fascinating. They're super fascinating. I'm really bummed we don't have one in Iowa City. I think the nearest one is Cedar Rapids.
Oh, fun.
Yup. Got lots of penises, lots of boobs. There's a really creepy one in the Acropolis Museum in Athens that is a head.
Yeah.
It's like just the eyes.
Oh, yeah, that's weird.
And it's just this part, and it's just staring at you, and it's just so creepy. And it's still painted.
Oh, wow.
It's very cool. I'll see if I can find my photo of it. Not that Jack could see it, but yeah, it's so fascinating. Let's drive.
More snakes.
The Epitaurus was the priest's residence. As the link between patients and the gods, priests were essential to the operation of the sanctuary. They were often elected into the priesthood for one-year periods, but could also buy themselves a position if they were wealthy enough. In addition to interpreting patients' dreams in the abaton, priests both supervised and performed
And now they say
sacrifices
abaton, right?
and rituals. During these functions, they were usually clad in white.
So far, we're at 5 of 7. I haven't learned anything about non-priest doctors. But they existed, right?
But not in the sanctuaries of Asclepius.
Okay.
So you had midwives for sure, but doctors as a profession don't really leave what is called temple medicine.
Okay.
That's what this is
Yeah.
temple medicine, until late 4th. So we're talking like
Oh, okay.
350 BCE, and that's because of Hippocrates. the like Hippocratic Oath
Yeah.
guy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not until him, and the only reason really that like, so he starts practicing medicine and everything. He learns from this like tradition,
Mhm.
but then he separates from the temple religion
Okay.
in order to observe things more, because he argues that there are germs, there are like actual like symptoms that can be treated beyond the gods.
Mm-hmm.
Not that there aren't gods, but just that humans can have like abilities and responsibilities.
Right.
Sorry. So, because of that, he starts a guild basically
Oh, okay.
of doctors who want to learn, and more people learn medicine outside of temple medicine. One of the things they swear by is that they won't take money, and they
Really?
won't take
My doctor
bribes
does
or
not swear by
anything.
that.
Yeah, no. Well, that's why the doctor symbol is more of Hermes, the
Yeah.
merchant, than Asclepius, who is the single.
Yeah.
But, medicine.
So, it said just at that last point that we were at that like the priests were often elected for 1-year periods.
Yes, I don't know much about the priests.
But I'm just saying, like, you serve for a year, you're elected. I don't know why. Who knows? Like, if you're popular or whatever, and you're in charge of treating people.
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah. You would listen to people. So people would say, like, here are my symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
but also, here's the dream I just had.
Right.
And then they would say, oh, in that dream, this and this happened, so you must need this and this and this treatment.
Okay. So they had like something written down that tells them like what these mean. Maybe?
Kind of.
Okay. Or like they can, like if you
But
don't know,
really,
you can
it's
maybe check with your friend.
Hippocrates that really is more of a, like, I'm going to science this
Right.
thing.
And like actually keep records.
Yeah, and keep
Okay.
records and keep. So he has like very detailed observations of like day 1 this happened,
Sure.
day 2 this happened, day 3 guy died. We have a lot of like day 3 guy died kind of things. It's kind of like sad
Huh.
and funny.
Just feel like there's gotta be something a little like if you showed up to your doctor's office and your doctor was like, "Hey, I was elected last week. I'm gonna serve for a year. Let
Yeah.
me treat you." I
Yeah.
feel like I would be like, "No."
Well, but they usually like had some sort of training already in terms of like they had been an
Okay.
apprentice, they had been helping out in the sanctuary.
All right.
It tends to be that way.
Fine. I guess it's like when you get the intern when you go to the hospital.
Yeah, it is. I mean, but it's ancient Greece. Everything's gross and disgusting, and
That's true.
there are germs everywhere. People die very easily.
So it's like when you go to the crappy hospital.
Yes. Oddly enough, the crappy hospital in
Oh.
Athens is called the. Oh wait, no, that's a good one. Is that the good one? Health.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah. Tholos. Yeah, we think maybe the snakes were kept there.
Oh god, this one's long.
No, it is long.
To a circular pit. A subterranean maze that may have housed sacred snakes.
Yeah, we don't really know what the use of it was.
Not going there.
They're not poisonous.
I don't like snakes in general. I don't think it would much matter to me. Okay. Do you wanna
Yeah.
stay with this or no?
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, I feel like.
Yeah, I hear sacred
They're
snakes.
snakes.
We don't
They
need
do
to see
stuff.
it.
I was gonna look for that picture.
Oh yeah.
Maybe. Of course not.
I'll start the next one.
Yeah, do it. I'm still looking for that photo.
The Abaton was built in the northern boundary of the sanctuary, where it surrounded a sacred well whose water was believed to have therapeutic properties. The Abaton was where pilgrims went for incubation or dream rituals. Details of the incubation
about it.
ritual have been
It's
described
creepy as
in
fuck.
unearthed medical
I'm
steles.
trying to like.
They were also noted in Aristophanes' play Plutus, which featured a
Love.
more comedic view of the process.
I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to see this. Isn't that creepy as hell? It's creepy as hell.
It's pretty visible, and I don't like
Yeah.
it there either.
It's super creepy. It's in the Acropolis Museum. It's like one of the first things you see when you walk in. It's so creepy. Yep, see? Yeah. Yeah. But it's so cool at the same time. It's just fascinating. Yeah.
Incubation
what they get
was the
cured.
dream ritual pilgrims experienced in the Abaton. After completing the necessary preliminary
had a migraine.
rituals, pilgrims were allowed to enter the sacred building, where they lay prone. As they took in the smell of burning incense, the sanctuary's priests extinguished the oil lamps and asked them to sleep in silence. Once they were asleep, Asclepios would appear in their dreams and give his medical advice. The advice included diet and treatment recommendations, as well as requests for specific offerings or religious rituals. Upon waking up, priests interpreted the patient's dreams, unless a patient had been miraculously healed in their sleep. However, if a patient was completely beyond help, they were removed from the Abaton.
You should not
This
die
was to
in
adhere to a
sanctuary.
ritual law that stated that no one could die or be born within the building.
Or all sanctuaries, honestly.
Really?
Yeah. It was seen as a major curse. Like Oedipus in the play Oedipus at Colonus, he goes to the sanctuary of the Eumenides, the goodly spirits, and he's like, "Oh, it's foreseen that I die here." And the people are like, "No, you can't die here, Oedipus. Get out! Like, get out right now!" And then Theseus comes in and he's like, "If it's foretold that it will happen, then it will happen. Let it happen."
Wow.
And so Theseus allows Oedipus to die.
So I guess the dying thing. Why are they so freaked out about people being born there? Or is it just
I mean, it could also be a health thing, a health issue thing. Like, babies, like, are,
terrifying?
well, yes. But also, very difficult to, infant mortality is super high.
Okay.
So it's likely that that child
so they're
might
gonna
die. So not only be born, but die. So now,
2 strikes.
yeah. Now you've messed things up twice.
Well, that was cool.
Yeah.
I
I see
think
you've
I would
completed the
be
tour.
a
I
little
hope
bit
you
in
enjoyed
trouble.
your time in the
I
sanctuary.
almost never
As
remember
you
my
can
dreams,
see,
so I feel like if I needed
gods
treatment in
and
this era, I would
miracles
just
were
be like,
as important
guys,
to
I've been
the
here
healing
2 nights,
process
I just
as medicine
nothing.
was.
Yeah, I don't
No.
know how long you can
What
stay
else would
until
you
they're
like
like,
to do?
dude.
Maybe that I'd be one of the ones where they're like, you're beyond hope.
Yeah. Do you want to do the quiz?
Yeah, why not?
Excellent. Here is your first question. Which mythical creatures made Zeus's thunderbolts?
Did they tell us this?
They did, but that is not a relevant part of what we
No,
learned.
it's really not. But yes, it is.
Correct. Zeus's thunderbolts were crafted by Cyclops.
Brontes,
On to the second
Sterope,
question.
and
What was the
I don't know.
name of the building where incubation occurred?
Do you remember?
Yes. This one.
Yep.
Yes.
The octagon was an option.
Entered
Of course.
the Abaddon to undergo a dream ritual in the hopes of curing their ailments. One final question for you. Who was Asclepios' father?
Ooh,
Do you know this one?
I do.
Good job.
Yes,
learning.
Apollo was Asclepios'
Look at that.
father, and his mother was a mortal named Coronis. You've proven you know the
Corona.
sanctuary inside and
Corona.
out. Well done.
Another tour?
Yeah, we've been on for an hour now. Should we continue? Should we let chat decide?
Yes.
Chat, you get to decide. All 3 of you. 5 of you, sorry.
Where did you see that?
I saw it on my thing. I had to like reload everything. We have 5 viewers right now.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks, Dugs, for following us, by the way. Me.
Oh, I should follow you at some point.
Yeah, you should.
Random
Oh,
tour.
there was a request for a yes. Random it is.
Okay.
Let's do it. We'll do one more, and then we'll stop.
As you wish, traveler. Follow me.
I'm guessing it's going to be another Herodotus one, since it seems like we're just following him.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it's a battle. I'm hoping it's a battle. We did Marathon, right?
We did marathon.
So
I don't know if we didn't do any other battles, did
was
we?
Salamis? I bet Salamis is an option. Maybe he'll bring us to Salamis. Flamethrower. Herms. Penises.
Wait, Herms?
A herm is a pillar
Mm-hmm.
that has the head of usually Hermes
Okay.
on top, and then a penis. Hey, Michael! Cool. It's wonderful.
Oh no, that's awful.
What?
One, that the hint is called Glue Factory.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about breaking horses' legs
Oh.
by burying pots in the sand, so horses' legs would get stuck.
That's mean.
I don't know how to feel about it being called Glue Factory, though.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not a Herodotus one. Wait, hold on.
We already did. Oh, it says tour completed.
Oh, right.
So we're at somewhere. Corinth.
Oh, the one that you wanted.
Oh, yay! I'm excited. I like this one. Or I like.
I was gonna say, wait,
I like.
you haven't done
I
that.
haven't done this
Corinth,
one, but I
Corinth.
absolutely. It's a
I have a
Suspacia.
special visit
Suspacia's
planned for you today. It's an intimate, informative look into the daily lives of Greek women.
fun. What do you think of?
It's amazing what women could accomplish while men spend all day trying to out-debate each other at assembly meetings. Their work should be far more appreciated on the whole, but we're going to acknowledge that now.
We know very little.
It had nothing to do with this place, by the way. So,
Yeah. They should have like something that's.
Like, just some other wording.
Yeah. What do you think of this topic?
Corinth was one of
Yeah.
the largest cities in ancient Greece. It had an estimated population of 90,000 in my
Corinth
times,
also.
and much of that population was made up of women.
Corinth
This
also has a
tour
legalized
will shine a
prostitution
light on
thing
those women
in
and
ancient
look
Greece.
at how they live
Well, I
on
mean,
a
prostitution was
day-to-day
always
basis.
legal, but it has an actual like
Look
temple
for me when
prostitutes.
you're done with
Oh.
your visit, and we
so
can
you
discuss
can go to the
things further.
sanctuary and temple of Aphrodite and get laid.
I also want to point out, Corinth, bigger than Iowa City. If that
Yeah,
number was true.
actually. Well, Corinth is like, so they don't have. They now have the canal,
Mm-hmm.
but it is the narrowest part between that connects the Peloponnese. If you
Oh,
like think
okay.
of Greece, right? So it's the narrowest part. So people, rather than sailing all the way around the Peloponnese,
Mm-hmm.
would stop there and then unload their ship
Oh, and like have like a
and
different
have
ship.
another ship on the other side.
Hmm.
And so there was actually like not train tracks, but there were like tracks,
Right.
so that people could wheel things back and forth and back
Huh.
and forth, back and forth.
I have finished the actual game. I don't know that Deb's played the non.
I have
Discovery
not
game.
finished the game. Jason, I think, is pretty well far into it. I have not played it by myself, except for like 1 hour, and then I stopped.
It's like a Keith experience. That
I'm sadly not very good. I'm
I
more
think
of a
Keith just got bored with
strategy.
it.
It's just kind of like there's too much to do. There's
There's
like
a
a
lot to do.
ton to do, and I just get really like overwhelmed by it
That's fair.
because I just want to stop and look at everything, and then it's like, oh, that guy
Deb
killed
just does
me.
Discovery Tour. In the
Yeah,
real
it's
game.
basically Discovery Tour in real life, and then it's like, oh, that guy killed me. Crap.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Allison saw that today, where I was just
Young
like wandering
girls
about.
growing up in ancient
Oh, sorry.
Greek
No, you're
cities
fine.
were usually raised by a nurse. They mostly
There's
stayed in the
ones.
women's quarters of the house,
The
the
Guinecon.
gunaikon, where they spent their time spinning threads
a long
and
game.
weaving. While there is not much historical evidence of young girls at play, especially compared to boys, it was still known to happen.
I wonder if they're gonna
For
talk about this
example, an ancient terracotta group depicts two girls playing Epidaurus. This was a
It's like a
competition
dice game.
to see who could strike an upright rock from afar using a pebble or ball. The game's loser had to close their eyes and carry the victor until they managed to touch the same rock with their hands.
That is.
It's not a lot to do in ancient Greece. They have a lot of games like Jax and all the other stuff too.
They didn't play Assassin's Creed.
No, sadly. I always want to like bring someone from ancient Greece to modern day and be like, "Hey, look," and have them freak out. Which
Yeah,
I
it
think
could
is why I
be-
like Star Trek so much. Because Star Trek has a
Oh.
lot of those moments where it's
Yeah.
like, you know,
I was like, you know that there aren't any ancient Greeks on Star Trek, right? Just
I feel like it's not a time travel. There is time travel, but it's like they never go back to ancient.
no, they go back to like
anything.
mid-19th or mid-20th
Yeah.
century.
Yeah, I saw the year 2026
Mm-hmm.
in Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, their
Oh,
predictions of like what
God.
the future is gonna be like.
It's not good, guys. It's not
Yeah,
good.
that was like just a couple years ahead of us now, which
Yeah.
is a little disturbing.
Yeah, there's like sanctuary cities that are
Mhm.
not.
I
good
just watched that
places.
episode a little while ago.
Yeah, it's scary as hell.
But totally viable.
Doctor Who, yes. I should watch Doctor Who.
I've never seen
gotten
Doctor
into
Who.
it. It's like Assassin's Creed. There's too much.
Yeah.
There's
There's a
too
lot of Doctor
much. I can't do it. Chat's gonna rebel against me now.
You didn't say it was bad.
Oh no.
For a young Greek woman, marriage was the culmination of their induction into society.
Yes.
The average life expectancy for women was about 40 years. So most marriages took place when the bride was
12.
14 or 15 years old.
Or as young
The
as 12.
marriage did not require her consent either. Instead, she was passed on from the protection of her father to that of her husband.
Curios.
Married women were not technically citizens at the time and lacked the rights that came with official citizenship. However, they did receive a dowry that only they were allowed to spend.
Some did.
But in the event of a failed marriage, the dowry was returned to the bride's father.
Yeah.
After the marriage was consummated, the woman's status changed from being a maiden to a bride. She remained a bride until the birth of her first child, wherein she officially became a woman.
You kind of have to have kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's kind of common in any old culture.
Yeah. I mean, that's your main purpose. You are breeding. Yeah, so there's a lot of like Bride of Hades kind of thing, where if you died before you were married,
Oh no.
you were considered to be a Bride of Hades.
That sounds bad. Is that bad?
Well, I mean, you're dead and you're not married, so you have to be married off somehow. So you're being
I
married to
guess.
Hades.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really it's really depressing. The whole thing is just really depressing.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Let's talk about children. Yeah, that doll I think is in the Acropolis Museum. Where is it? Oh, it's in the Met. Fuck. Sorry.
No.
They have a lot of things from North American museums, which I kind of wish they would do more Greek museums. But
Okay, so I knew about
Whatever.
potentially abandoning kids if they were like had signs of disability, but also if they were girls.
unwanted, just unwanted in
Oh, okay.
general. Like, and so yeah, girls. But we don't have a lot of evidence of to how many, like what percentage of children
Mhm.
were abandoned and left out to
Right.
die because like then their bones get scattered and disintegrate and everything. It's not like a grave where it's purposely intentionally buried.
Right.
So yeah, deformities were a big thing, but then also like, oh, girls, because you have to give a dowry.
Right.
And if you have to give a dowry, then that's expensive. Like,
Yeah.
and so too many girls and no boys.
I remember in must have been my I think it was my freshman year of high school in my world history class. We had this super cool teacher, and to try and illustrate why dowries were considered so problematic, we rolled dice to determine like the overall wealth of our family, and every person had their own little family.
Yeah.
And then you rolled dice to see how many boys you had versus how many girls, and then we had like 30 minutes where we would go around and try and negotiate marriages with other people in the class.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And so, like, if you rolled, like, a 6 for boys and, like, 1 for girls, you were, like, super lucky.
Yeah.
Because you're just collecting dowries for
Yeah.
your family.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Wow, that's
It was a
crazy.
really fun, like,
That's
way
a
to, like,
brilliant
illustrate
game.
that.
Yeah. I mean, and it's all just based on like, yeah, the worth of a woman,
Right.
basically. Like, this is what a woman is worth, basically. That the father is giving it to the groom to take care of the bride.
Right,
Basically.
yeah. It's like you're getting paid for, like, protection services.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so it's kind of mafia-like in a way.
There's a purple thing somewhere. Oh, there
Yeah,
it is.
right there.
Oh.
What's it gonna be on? Jason and Medea. Are they Jason and Medea? These two? They're fighting.
I'm going to assume.
Why are they showing us this?
I don't know. We can learn more.
I mean, I can tell you a lot about Jason and Medea, but
Okay. Why is
mean,
this coming up here?
okay. So maybe it has to do with marriage,
Okay.
because Medea is married to Jason.
Mhm.
Medea, however, is a foreign woman. She's
Okay.
not Greek. And so the only reason that Jason marries her is because her father is hunting them down because she has escaped with him. She has gone away with him.
Okay.
And so her father is trying to get her back And so these group of people that take them in basically say, like, well, look, we're not taking you in until you marry her, so that we know that this is a legitimate thing. And so he marries her, but he's, like, not really happy about it.
Okay.
But she helped him get the Golden Fleece, and she helped him do all these things, and she's, like, helping him.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, like, arguments. My students like to make arguments of, like, oh, well, Medea is a feminist figure then, because she helps him, and she does all these things for him, and it shows a woman in power. She is absolutely crazy. She, in Euripides' Medea, kills her children
Oh.
that she has with Jason after killing Jason's new fiance
think
and
that's what it
her
mentions
husband.
here.
Yeah.
Huh.
So Medea, gifts Glauce with a dress, but it's poisoned, and as soon as she puts it on, her skin melts away. And actually, her father tries to save her as well, and when he does, he catches fire as well, and he dies. So Jason, who was supposed to take over Corinth, that's probably why it's here, is because we're in Corinth.
Sure.
He was supposed to take over Corinth. He doesn't get to take over Corinth because he wasn't even married yet.
Right.
And the king and his bride, his future bride, are both dead. So Medea has screwed up everything. Then on top of it all, she then kills her 2 children that she has with Jason as a way of saying, like, look, now you don't even have heirs.
I think Allison might be right. It's here because it's a terrible example of marriage.
It is. It's a terrible example. It's a terrible example of a woman when a woman is in power.
Yeah.
It's like, look how crazy these people become when you give them power. Don't give women power. So, not a feminist symbol. She does get screwed over a lot. Yeah. I mean, not that killing anyone is okay, but I can understand her anger.
Yeah, I mean, fair. You get kind of
Killing people's bad.
married to someone and they abandon you.
Yeah. Yes, it is snapped.
Women living in ancient Greek cities were essentially forbidden from participating in political life, and most aspects of their lives were controlled by men. Their most important responsibilities were running the household and giving birth to children, preferably boys. Most of the time, women's excursions outside of the house were limited to visiting other female neighbors, as per custom. A few exceptions to this strict rule were weddings, funerals, and religious festivals involving women in prominent public roles.
Yeah, we actually have this really interesting trial speech called Against the Murder of Eratosthenes.
Okay.
And it is a woman, so a man is defending killing another man.
Okay.
And that man killed that man, he argues, because that man was sleeping with his wife, and he caught his wife and that guy together in the act.
Yeah.
And so the law is that you can kill the adulterer if you catch them in the act with a witness.
Okay.
Okay?
Sure.
But it's only when it's an adulterer, a man sleeping with a married woman.
Right.
It's not the other way around. Because men could have sex outside of marriage as much as they wanted.
Oh.
As much as they wanted.
Okay.
And they did. A lot. So,
Like that? Turn to the
yeah.
microphone.
A lot.
Huh.
So, like, Zeus is the perfect example. Zeus is allowed to have sex with whoever he wants.
Oh, so when I shook my hand earlier, I was like, ah, Zeus. Like, he's
Yeah,
fine.
no, he's fine.
Okay.
He's fine.
Never mind, Zeus. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wasn't going to correct you, because, yeah, I think Zeus is kind of a pain in the butt. Most of the problems that happen in myth are because of him.
Yeah.
And him not being able to keep it in his pants.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of knowledge of, like, Greek myth, but I know enough to know that Zeus causes a lot of issues.
Yeah. Oh, but my reason for bringing up that trial speech
Oh, yeah.
is because the guy says, look, my wife was a good woman until we had to attend the funeral of my mother. And that's where this guy saw her.
Huh.
And then he started seducing her through our slave. So
Oh,
he
weird.
would pass messages through the slave.
Oh.
Because
okay,
the
I get it.
slave would leave the house.
Mhm.
The woman wouldn't.
Right.
And so she gets all these messages, and then eventually he, like, sneaks into the house and has sex with her, and eventually, like, the husband finds out about it.
Right.
And so he kills the guy.
Did he have a witness?
Yes.
Okay. Just checking.
And so that's his
Make
argument.
sure he's following the law.
And he even, like, he even has witnesses speak at the trial. We don't know how the trial ended, sadly. But he probably was acquitted of anything. But the family members of the guy that got killed...
Allison, that's exactly what I was wondering, is if the wife was the witness.
No, it doesn't matter. And actually, he never says the wife's name.
Oh.
As a way of maybe protecting her, like...
Aw.
Maybe. Well, I wouldn't say aw too much. I mean, like, he did just kind of throw her in the dirt.
That's true.
Of a way of being like, my wife was fine until...
Yeah, alright, fair.
And, yeah, and he basically shows, like, how sneaky his wife was in this whole thing, too.
Oh, yeah, that kind of lowers the awe.
Yeah, so he says, like, oh, my wife had the slave pinch our baby so that he would cry, and so that she would have to go downstairs and take care of the baby.
Oh, man.
Take care of the baby.
I got it.
Yeah.
Can women stand trial? Or, like,
No,
be
women
a
cannot
witness?
stand trial. So the only people that can stand trial that might be women would be a slave. Only after they were tortured. You have to torture slaves.
Wasn't that kind of common in a lot of older cultures where they
Maybe,
like,
I don't know.
I remember one of the, was it old England? Somewhere had laws where they believed that people were like constitutionally unable to tell the truth without torture.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what the slaves were, according to ancient Greeks.
But I think that was somewhere
That's
in
crazy.
England or something. I can't remember.
That
Or maybe it
continuation
might
of
have
that.
been Catholicism, to be honest. Who knows?
I mean, not surprising. But yeah, women cannot stand trial. They can't represent themselves. They can't do anything.
So, let's say a non-slave woman does something bad.
Yeah.
Does the man get accused of stuff?
No.
Okay.
So if a non-slave woman, if like a free woman, like a citizen woman,
Yeah.
if like that wife had done something bad,
Yeah.
like killed someone, we do have, it would be like, she would be technically on trial, but
Oh, does she not even get to like?
but she
appear
doesn't
then?
get to like do anything. Yeah. So it's very much her family, her guardian guarding
Okay.
her and saying and defending her
Okay.
basically. We actually have one that's like against the stepmother or something. And she poisoned.
Why is there so much poison?
I know. There's lots of everything. Really, it's really fascinating. Ancient Greece, man.
Making textiles
Is
was
it
the main
America? South
occupation of
America.
most Greek women. It was a woman's responsibility to manufacture clothing for each of her family members, as well as to weave other household textiles. Women with exceptional weaving skills were believed to make excellent wives, and weaving in general was seen as a very attractive quality.
Penelope.
For
Penelope's a good
example,
example.
Homer describes Odysseus's devoted wife Penelope as spending most of her days weaving at the loom. Similarly, many Greek vases depicting women weaving were combined with images of a woman holding a veil, which was seen as the symbol of a
It's
bride.
like this.
Oh.
Of you're veiling yourself. You're either veiling yourself or you're pulling the veil away, one of the two. But it's a veiling motion. So, yeah. Yeah, so Penelope is shown as... But then there are also women shown at the loom who are very tricky as well, because that's where we get the phrase weaving a trick
Oh.
or weaving a deception.
Huh.
We get that from Penelope as well, because she used weaving as a way of delaying the suitors from marrying her.
Oh, right. Yeah.
She would unweave it every day or every night, whatever she wove. But Greeks used vertical looms rather than horizontal looms.
Oh, yeah.
So you have these things called loom weights at the bottom that are going to hold the weft. The weft is the vertical.
Okay.
And then you warp. The warp is the thing that goes back and forth in between those. And she's using what's called a shuttle. And that holds the thread.
Huh.
So you have to start from thread first. So you have to like, spinning wool is another thing. And you can take it anywhere in ancient Greece.
Okay.
Right? So you're like sitting at home doing it, you're like in the garden doing it, you know, you're anywhere. You can just be, it's like a fidget spinner for women in ancient Greece. Men are never shown weaving They are never shown spinning wool. It's a very feminine task.
Huh. Okay.
And everyone did it, regardless of if you were wealthy or poor. Everyone every female learned to weave.
Huh.
And learned to spin.
Well, yeah, because you want to get married.
Yeah. I mean, you're making everyone's clothes.
Well, that too.
So, how else are you going to make clothes? But Helen is shown weaving in the Iliad. And she's weaving the scenes of the battle, of the Trojan War.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So it seems to have some sort of element of embroidery to it.
Okay.
So this is like my Game of Thrones callback, where like Sansa is really good at weaving, and look at her, she's like, you know, really good at needlework, and Arya is like, this stuff sucks. I hate this. This is terrible. Why do I have to do this? This is why you have to do this.
Yeah. So Arya would have made a really bad Greek wife.
Yeah. Yeah, Arya
I mean, also
would be
the dressing up in armor and assassinating people.
Yeah. Now, there are different, like, I don't know if they're going to go into, like, the sexual life of women at all, but...
Well, they've only got 2 more stations.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to actually go into it, but there are, like... So there's different levels of people that you can sleep with as a man.
Mm-hmm.
You can have prostitutes,
Sure.
right? You can have mistresses.
Okay.
And Aspasia, the woman who is leading this, is the mistress of Pericles.
Yes, she appears in the
Yeah,
game as
she's
well.
in the main game. And she has a lot of power in the main game, and we're actually not sure how much power she had in Antiquity.
I was going to ask about that.
She may have had quite a bit.
Really?
There are arguments of her, like, because she could attend things like symposiums,
Because
parties,
she was a public
because she's not a citizen.
Right.
So she's not a citizen, and therefore any children that she has with Pericles were technically illegitimate. However, the plague strikes in 430 BCE, kills all of Pericles' legal heirs. And so the city of Athens makes a special exception that the sons that that Aspasia has with Pericles can be legitimate heirs. They don't give citizenship to Aspasia,
Right.
but they give citizenship and therefore full, like, inheritance rights to the sons that the two of them had together.
Interesting. Desperation.
Yeah, basically, because they didn't want his,
Like,
belongings to just
yeah,
disappear.
what would have happened?
They
Just
would have
get
just disappeared.
looted?
Yeah, actually, Hesiod is our epic author that talks about what happens if you don't get married. And he says basically, like, women are a necessary evil. Women are a necessary evil. If you have to put up with them so that you can have kids.
Right.
Otherwise, all of your stuff will be basically, like, distributed amongst strangers when you die. No one will remember your name when you die. No one will remember you when you die.
Wow.
You have to have children for that reason. Specifically boys.
Okay. Interesting.
Ancient Greece.
I mean,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
It's harsh.
Ancient
Is-
Greek women cooked in their house's kitchen area.
Cooking.
However, since their cooking equipment was small and portable, they also sometimes prepared
It's actually
meals
difficult
in the
to
central
identify
courtyard.
kitchens.
This
Really?
was also where
Because
women
it can be
performed
moved.
other domestic activities. These activities were rarely seen by visiting men
Because-
or passers-by.
yeah, this is a bad
because
representation
the
of this.
architecture of classical Greek houses
we don't
facilitated
have
the
the actual
social
house
norm
here.
that women should
They're not
never
showing
be
the
seen
house.
at work.
Yes.
Oh.
It should never be seen at work. So a traditional house is not like that. This is like an open area. The
Yeah.
traditional house, I think in the game they actually have a very good, like, representation of one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But where if you are a guest, you will walk in and you will immediately turn and be led to the andron, the men's quarters,
Okay.
where you would have the symposium, drinking parties, and stuff like that.
Sure.
Further on is that courtyard area and a hallway area, and that's kind of serves as a barrier between the guests and the outside, and the women and the domestic life on the inside.
Oh, wow.
And men are not allowed, if they are not members of the household,
To go.
to go past that
Huh.
barrier,
Wow.
basically.
It kind of reminds me of I moved around a lot as a kid, but one of the
Yeah.
houses my family owned specifically had a second stairwell for servant use back in the day. And it was not even that big of a house, but it was built in like the late 1800s.
Yeah.
And so there was a very small stairwell that connected the kitchen to like the second floor, so that like meals could be brought up without guests seeing them.
Like
on, like
servants'
the main
quarters
staircase.
kind of things. Yeah. Yeah, it's very much servants' quarters. And women would not eat with men.
Oh, really?
Traditionally, yeah, in ancient Greece.
That kind of sucks. You make all the food. And
You
just,
make
like,
all the
deliver
food,
it?
you give it to them, and whatever's left over, you get to eat.
Oh, you don't even get to eat. Oh, wow.
You don't even get to
You don't
eat
even
first.
like make your own separate meal.
Yeah. It's all separate. It's craziness.
Yeah.
Oh my god, load time. Trying to think of what they're going to talk about now.
I feel like it's hard to guess because like the visual clues aren't here like there are with like the battles and the.
Yeah. There's not like a
The
chronological
historian
thing.
Strabo relays that the Temple of Aphrodite was one of Corinth's most
Sacred
famous
prostitutes!
landmarks. This was largely due to the temple's female patrons. These hetairai, as they were called, were donated to the goddess by both men and women. According
Let's
to
talk
Strabo,
about prostitutes.
the Temple of Aphrodite contributed greatly to Corinth's wealth. The hetairai were the temple's main attraction, and many visitors came to Corinth in search of their company, for which they spent frequently and frivolously.
Oh, that was it.
Oh man. Okay, so hetairai are not just sacred sex prostitutes in Corinth
Sure.
to Aphrodite. Hetairai are like geishas.
Okay.
And they are expensive, really expensive prostitutes.
Okay.
And you don't just get them in Corinth, you can get them anywhere. Like, they're all over Athens, they're everywhere.
But Corinth had like you said special laws.
This
or
one
something?
was just in the temple.
Oh, okay.
Like, so it's in the temple that they were like sacred priestesses that also were these skilled women.
Sure.
So not only so hetairai, first of all, are not legal citizens. They're not like daughters of citizens.
Oh, they're not.
They're not married to citizens. No.
But they're never.
But they
daughters
were
of
free.
Greeks.
Right. Well, they are Greeks, but not of that city.
Ah, okay.
So they could be
'cause
from
they were
another city.
donated,
Yeah.
Which I assume is not
Yeah, they could
the
be from another
pleasant,
city.
happy thing that it sounds like when you use the word
Yeah.
donate.
It's all like, yeah, it's all slave.
Okay.
Yeah, stuff. So, you find a baby exposed on a mountain that's a girl, raise her to be a prostitute. You could train her to do stuff. And so music was a big one for hetairai.
Okay.
But also actually engaging in philosophical discussion
Really?
was something that hetairai could do and do well. So there's debates actually as to whether or not Aspasia was a hetairai,
Oh.
or if she was a brothel owner,
Oh.
which would be very unusual, but could be a potential as well. That she owned a brothel or was a mistress, a madam of a brothel. So lots of craziness, actually. Yeah.
So did they lead comfortable lives, or were they kind of like
Not really.
come perform and then go do?
Yeah, so I mean, it was more the wealthy people that were going to patronize you if you were a hetairai.
Right. And I get that you're
But-
not keeping that money.
Yeah,
But
and
like,
you're
were they
you know,
cared for at all?
oh, they were okay. It was
Okay.
okay, but there are definitely lots of examples on like Greek base painting of people like beating up women, like
Okay.
having sex with them and like hitting them with things and
Yeah.
stuff. And it's like, oh god. But this is like perfectly acceptable apparently. Like
Huh.
massive group orgies with like women in compromising positions that don't look pleasant.
Oh.
And women like taking care of vomiting young boys and things like that. So it doesn't seem to be very glamorous.
Yeah. Okay.
But at the same time, like, you were somewhat educated.
right.
And so there's like this level of, well, how good, it's unclear. And yeah, Aspasia, we don't know. Was she a hetairai? Was she just a mistress? How well educated was she? She seems to be very well educated.
Mm-hmm.
She seems to be able to read and write and do all of these things. Create poetry and understand philosophy and warfare and politics.
Yeah,
But-
she has a kind of cool role in the main game.
Yeah, they definitely give a lot more agency to her than what our sources have.
Okay.
She's a really fascinating. Actually, there's a call for papers on like
Oh, really?
representations of ancient Greek women or ancient women in video games.
Oh,
And I was
wow.
debating submitting one on Aspasia.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, it's due on Friday though. I don't know if I have the time.
Oh, yeah. I have a lot of writing to do this week.
Yeah.
Now I'm feeling guilty.
I have a conference this week.
Like, Zoom?
A
style?
virtual conference.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
gonna be annoying.
it's gonna be really weird. Is chat alive?
Yes.
Hey, Allison. Okay, there.
Hello again, Wanderer. I
We just
hope
haven't
your
said
visit
anything
was an
interesting. Yeah.
interesting one. Greek women
women.
lived very restricted
wow.
lives compared to men.
I didn't say.
But throughout
mean-
it all, they held on to their strength and dignity. Is there anything else you'd like to do?
I'm a little surprised they didn't bring up the Spartan thing that we talked about last time.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's in there somewhere. That it's like the Spartan education system or something. I feel like it might have been there.
Alright, let's get quizzed.
Feeling up for
Oh,
a
you don't
test?
wanna interrupt.
Excellent. Let's begin with an easier question. What was the name of the women's quarters in a Greek home?
Yeah? That one?
No.
That one.
Yes.
I knew it ended in ON and I knew the
Yeah.
andron was the men.
Well, a woman goes to a gynecologist.
That makes a lot of
It's
sense.
a person that studies women.
See, had I stopped and thought about what these...
I'm sure you would have gotten it.
Correct. the
icon is
Unicon
like
was where
a
young
place,
girls
so it's a
spent their
place for
days
women.
weaving and spinning threads. On
What's
to the
interesting
next
is
question.
we actually don't
The Corinthian
know
temple said to employ the
what a
Epidaurus
gynecologist
was dedicated to which
like,
god?
if it even existed.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Because it seems to be rather portable. That you're just taking a loom, things to weave, things to spin, cooking. Like, it seems very portable. As opposed to an andron, where you need specific, like, measurements because you're going to have couches
Oh,
for laying down and doing all of these things. So you have very permanent things.
Is there a reason for it to be portable? Like, they didn't, like, move a ton, did they?
No, but I mean, spaces were very much, like, we kind of live in this lap of luxury now where it's like, this room is devoted solely to this
Sure.
activity and nothing else.
Oh, I guess you might, like, move, like, the loom in when you need to do this
Yeah.
thing and then move other
And then
stuff
move
in.
other stuff in. If you, like, you know, have kids that need rooms or stuff, then
Right.
you can, like, move it. So everything can be moved around,
Okay.
basically. It's kind of like an office. But for women. What was the question?
The Corinthian temple said to employ the Etera was dedicated to which god?
I know this one.
Correct. Aphrodite was the goddess of love and passion, so it's only
I
fitting her
disagree.
temple served such an amorous purpose. We're almost done. Just one more question. What was the name of Odysseus' wife?
Yeah.
Yes,
Clytemnestra is a
Penelope
bad
was
example of a
Odysseus'
woman.
loyal wife, who
Helen,
kept at her weaving
also a
while
bad
waiting
example.
for her husband to
I
return
don't know
from war.
Clytemnestra.
You passed the test, Wanderer.
Clytemnestra is the wife of
Congratulations.
Agamemnon.
Oh, okay.
She kills him when he returns from Troy.
Oh.
He's like, "Hey, I'm victorious! I won!" Dead.
Why did she kill him?
Because he sacrificed their daughter Iphigenia before the war started, and
Okay.
he lured her there by saying, "You're gonna marry Achilles."
Oh.
But then he ended up sacrificing her to Artemis because Artemis was mad because he killed a stag that was sacred to Artemis, and she's prevented the winds from blowing.
I'm gonna be honest. I feel like mother-child bond. Like, you're probably gonna get murdered if you kill that person's kid.
Yeah.
I don't
Well, that's what
I don't
they're.
feel
That's
terrible
they're
about it.
like. Yeah, but she does it. Yeah, she also sleeps with another man, and while he's away, so
I'm
he's
just saying, like,
he's
maybe,
off at work.
maybe don't have kids with someone and then murder their kids.
Yeah, it would be nice.
Also, did he have to kill the stag? Like, this was really kind of all on him.
Yeah, it is. Well, and that's the example of, like, I have a lecture in one of my myth classes on, like, women who suffer
Wait,
and why
she
do
gets
they suffer.
killed then?
No, Aspasia is a real, actual historical one.
No, not Aspasia.
Oh,
Clemenza?
Clytemnestra? Yeah, she dies. Oh, yeah, she dies. She's killed by her
So it
son.
balances out. Yeah, that's what Allison said.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Orestes kills her. Apollo basically comes up to him and is like, "Dude, go kill your mom." And he's like, "Okay." So, and then he has to do it. So it balances out. I mean,
I guess.
but
as
then
long as everyone
Orestes
gets
has to
murdered.
go on trial.
Okay.
So he goes on trial for killing his mom because the Furies start haunting him. The Furies, their responsibility is to basically torture and torment anyone who kills a family member.
Oh, okay.
So they start tormenting Orestes after he kills his mother. But Apollo's like, dude, I'm the one that told you to do this because she killed her husband. And so she deserves to die.
Okay.
So that's what the trial is about. And Athena basically stands up and serves as one of the judges.
Wow.
And says, like, FYI, I am always for the male.
Oh.
I will always vote for the male.
Not where I was expecting that to
I
go.
know, right? That's another one where everyone's like, oh, Athena, she's this female empowerment. And it's like, no, Athena is very much a, like, women, here is how you
Then
act.
farewell, wanderer, and thank you for visiting this great place.
All right. Yes, the Oresteia. Good job, Alice.
So is that it for our chores for today?
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of late. I've been on for 2 hours.
Yeah, and I still have work to do tonight.
Yeah, and I gotta cook dinner.
Whoa.
I'm very domestic.
Are you leaving at all?
Actually, I'm making masks.
Oh yeah, you were.
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
So I am sewing, and I will garden later.
Do you have a loom though?
I don't have a loom. I have a sewing machine.
I guess that's pretty close.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, chat. Thanks, Allison, for moderating.
Bye, chat.
We'll do... So I am going to stream every Monday over the summer at 6 p.m. Central Time until, I don't know, it'll probably be 2 hours. I am not sure what I'll play next week. It might be this. Maybe it'll be Old World by myself. I don't know. It depends on if Francis wants to hang out with us again.
Yeah, sure.
No
why not?
pressure.
I don't.
Oh, okay.
I'm doing nothing.
So, Monday we'll probably play another tour then.
Cool.
Sounds good. Cool. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.